Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Grey's Anatomy Season 3, Episode 9, From a Whisper to a Scream. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happened in the episode. So as always, we'll start with the patients. First patient was a Mr. Dickinson who came in as the perpetrator of a car accident where a car drove into a small marketplace. And it is found throughout the episode that the reason for this is that he had a consequence of aging, a condition where his spine shrunk a bit, and that caused various problems with his lower extremities, his feet, his legs. And this ultimately led to him losing control of the car. His wife, Mrs. Dickerson, basically spends the episode trying to say it wasn't his fault, it was the car, you know, he's a good driver, so on and so forth. However, by the end of the episode, especially when one of their close market people that they frequently buy from ends up in a life-threatening surgery, she comes clean, and her daughter had been in town, took away his keys, and she was the one who gave those keys back because her husband likes to drive, and she didn't want to betray him, and he would have felt betrayed if she hadn't. So she takes some responsibility for the accident, and then she goes and has to speak with the police about what actually happened while her husband's in surgery. Second patient is Janelle Duco, and she is in the she's basically pregnant. The man cheated on her. She hasn't told him. She hasn't even fully decided if she wants to keep her baby yet or not. But then, after being one of the main victims in this car accident, um, having a glass shard in her heart, covered in scrapes and bruises, and the baby's still alive, she starts to consider that potentially then she should not get rid of her baby. And they, of course, then go through the surgery. And because it is a heart surgery, and also Shepard has a heart surgery, and then there's Harold O'Malley, who's still there from the previous episode, now introducing with his wife, Louise, who is George's mother. Also a heart surgery. Inevitably, throughout this episode, Christina struggles, and so does Burke, with the fact that they've been covering up his tremor. He does note that he hasn't, or is completely gone. Our episode kind of struggling with and panicking over not Burke's hand, because George knows, so he brings in Erica Hahn, who we've seen in previous episodes, to do his dad's surgery in place of Burke, but Burke still has to do a couple of his own surgeries as well, like he has to help Derek with his patient, and then he also does the surgery with quickly. They then end up fighting. Their relationship ends up on the rocks because of it. And ultimately, Christina does come clean to Richard before Burke has the opportunity to. And also, Burke briefly is considered for chief of surgery with Richard's retirement. However, obviously, the coming clean about the tremor and the hiding it puts a bit of a damper on that potential. And then George, because he knows about Burke's hand, obviously switches to Erica for his dad's heart surgery, but doesn't want to tell on Burke and Christina, and so he just ends up lashing out at Callie, lashing out at Izzy, lashing out at everybody, including Christina, and acting like an all-around a-hole throughout the episode. Although by the end of the episode, he does apologize to Izzy, though she isn't quite ready to forgive him at the end of this particular episode. And then Meredith and Derek are pretty much in a good place in their relationship. And it is at the start of the episode, they're still doing the whole not sleeping together thing, taking things slow. By the end of the episode, it is heavily implied that that is no longer the case, though obviously it's not on screen, but it is implied that that is no longer the case. So now that we've been reminded what happened, it's now time to rank the episode. As always, we'll be ranking on our mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. Mostly objective ranking list, we have our single episode supporting character introduction, which was Janelle Duco. Then we have our multi-season supporting character introduction, which was Louise O'Malley. We then have a multi-season supporting character development, which is Erica being brought in to consult for Harold and ultimately taking over his surgery from Burke. Erica also is considered to be the new head of the cardiothoracic surgery should Burke be promoted to chief. However, of course, like I said, there's a damper on that when they come clean. Then we have our multi-season main character growth, which is the fact that after struggling with it throughout the episode and the previous episodes as well, Christina and Burke do finally decide to come clean. Now, Christina's technically the one who came clean to the chief. However, Burke was on his way into the office to talk to the chief himself on his own. He just happened to get there second. So I still think that that is growth on his part, that he's finally willing to come clean, even though because Christina got there first, he wasn't really given the opportunity to do so on his terms. Just the fact that he was going to and had gone there to confess to the chief, I think still counts as growth. And because it's the same issue that they're growing on, I am counting that just as one, which is a solid 4 points, and that brings us up to 11 points total. So we then come into our negatives. Obviously, there was some negative messaging or behaviors. The fact that George was lashing out at everybody was obviously negative behaviors. But specifically to Izzy, he basically, when he comes in and finds out that his parents are thinking of going back to Burke for the surgery, even knowing that Izzy had no way to know about Burke's issue because he was not willing to confide in her, he basically lashes out at Izzy for telling his parents that Burke is the best, which, as far as she knew, he is. And then he, of course, tells them that she's on probation because last time she was allowed to interact with patients, someone died, and basically humiliates her and professionally lambasts her to his parents, which is just a little too far. Like, I understand emotional turmoil that he would have been in because obviously this is his parents potentially going to go into a life-threatening surgery. He wants the best person. He knows there's something wrong with Burke, but she didn't. And again, to do that in front of people, to humiliate her like that, especially on a professional basis, I think that that was just too far. Like in the case of Callie, she comes clean and confirms that they were broken up when she slept with Sloane and she would never cheat on him, and he lashes out at her. That is personal and he is dealing with personal emotions, so I'm like, that's not as big a deal. But in this case, his personal emotions affected Izzy and he lashed out at her professionally, not on a personal side, which is what I think makes it worse and wrong. Especially since at the time his dad is her patient. So in front of her patients, even if they are his parents, he's bad-mouthing her professionally. So that was -2 points. Then we had an additional -2 points for, of course, Christina and Burke turning on each other professionally. You know, the fact that Christina and him, he basically, when he finds that Christina's wavering, he starts to cut her out of like the surgeries, like stops letting her help in the surgeries, stops, you know, relying on her, even going so far as to leave her OR that she was in, not let her come with him, and then Meredith ends up watching his hands the entire time because Christina tells her to. So, on a professional basis, they start to turn on each other. But there was also a -3 points for the main relationship regression or breakup, and this, of course, is the more personal side of Christina and Burke, where, oh, and Christina, of course, goes to the chief first before Burke has a chance to for the previous point. So this point is, of course, their relationship side of things. They fight. Burke says she dragged him into becoming a team. He wanted to come clean. She's the one who said he shouldn't. She's the one who made them a team. She's the one, basically blaming her about being a team and saying that they are not a team, saying that he does not need her on a personal basis. And then by the end of the episode, she's sitting in the parking lot, like wondering if she's even able to go home because they live together and their relationship, she has kind of betrayed him by going to the chief first, but then he also betrayed her by freezing her out, saying he didn't need her, etc. And then when she does arrive back at their home at the apartment, she sees him in the bedroom. She walks in and he basically shuts the bedroom door in her face, basically regulating her probably to the couch that night, though we don't see that on screen. And so that is definitely a regression in their relationship, though they have not officially broken up at this point. All told, that makes this a 4 out of 10 episode, bringing us to the mostly objective ranking for season 3. And in first place, we have Where the Boys Are, Let the Angels Commit, I Am a Tree, Time Has Come Today, Oh, the Guilt, Staring at the Sun. This episode comes in 7th, From a Whisper to a Scream. What I Am is in 8th, and then in last is Sometimes a Fantasy. Now, personal rankings, I gave it an 8 out of 10. I don't like George as a character, so George lashing out at people, I was just like, see, this is why I don't like him. So it wasn't necessarily a negative for me personally. It was kind of just like, see, I knew your true colors. You're not a great character. So I didn't have a problem with that. Finally, Christina and Burke coming clean. It was inevitable, and honestly, I was starting to get tired of them dragging it on so long. One thing I will say though is almost every time I comment in an episode that something's dragging on too long and I'm about to like really start hating it, it's like the next episode where that thing gets resolved. And so on the one hand, I'm like, are they dragging it out a lot? But on the other hand, it's like perfect pacing because just as I'm about to like flip my lid and say like this is getting ridiculous, you're dragging it on too long, they finally resolve it. So I did like that that's resolved, that it's out in the open now. Um, there was a good line in there where Derek was like to Burke, you should have told me, I thought you were my friend. And Burke kind of claps back with, I thought you were my surgeon, basically implying that Derek treating him like a friend led to less oversight in his care, which may have caught the tremor ahead of time. Um, as mentioned, Derek and Meredith are in a good place. There was brief at the end where Derek's kind of mad at her for not telling him about Burke, but then she explains the reasons why, and obviously by the end of the episode, they are heading towards taking it quicker than they were before. The car accident victims, I think it was a good choice to do kind of a larger trauma with multiple patients and none really getting a lot of attention because the main drama was around Christina and Burke's secret coming out, George knowing about that secret and kind of blowing up his relationships, and around, all of the heart surgeries and doing like a general accident without any main focus on any particular patients except for Janelle and Mrs. Dickerson. Kind of allowed for multiple heart surgeries, which highlighted that's Burke's specialty. And also then they don't have to spend a lot of time making us care about patients, and they can have all of the other doctors kind of, oh, they're off on this trauma, that's why we're not focusing on them, but we know where they are type thing. So I think that was a good choice. Um, Obviously, Mrs. Dickerson keeping a secret and then coming out with the secret falls in line with Christina and Burke keeping their secret and finally coming out with their secret. Even Janelle Duco, who has the baby, she's keeping the baby a secret from the father and not even sure if she wants to keep the baby yet. So again, her secret she's still keeping it. It doesn't really come out. Um, but overall, I felt like it was a relieving episode because what I was starting to get annoyed and tired by has now progressed further. And that's like a sigh of relief, like finally, okay, that's done. That's over. Well, not over, but at least moving on to the next stage. And that feels good. And while there was drama, it was also not as heavy a drama as we had had in some of the previous episodes as well, which also is kind of relieving because then it's more like an easy episode, probably before even more drama comes again, which gives you a bit of a break to kind of not have as much tension while watching, is how I'll describe it. Um, so yes, I liked this episode, and I felt like it was a really well done episode, and I feel like it was also a relieving episode before more drama comes in. That's why I gave it the 8 out of 10, and also why it is in first place where the boys are, and this episode second from a whisper to a scream. Staring at the sun, let the angels commit. I am a tree, what I am, sometimes a fantasy, time has come today, and then in last place for me is Oh, the Guilt. Bringing us now to our series rankings so far, and season 1 we had in first place at 77.78%, season 2 in second with 76.67%, and season 3 so far has a score of 48 out of a possible 230. On the personal ranking side, season 2 came in first with 72.22%, season 1 in second with 66.67%, and then season 3 so far has a score of 64 out of a possible 230. But with that, we have now rewatched and ranked Grey's Anatomy season 3 episode 9, From a Whisper to a Scream. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.